Can I take a moment to talk about mixed girl tears? Ooh. Because people have been asking me kind of like related things about it. And I feel the mixed kids quaking and like, Nikki, wait a minute. Aren't you the one that's been saying like our blackness is not invalidated just because we're mixed? Out, Jack, out. Since you want to come out, go. Yes, I am. I will always be that person. I will always be that person. I'll always be the one fighting against, fucking Dusty that are like, you're mixed, you're not black. I'm like, shut the fuck up, bro. But I think that this conversation is something very worth having. And I think that is something that can really help our community if we fucking talk about it. Like, really, really, really talk about it. And it's taken me a while to really meditate and think about this before I spoke on it. But on my YouTube feed it's mostly black women, which I'm very, very happy about. But I would see a lot of accounts by unambiguously black women, unambiguously dark-skinned black women. And a lot of the videos I would see a lot of videos just really on the subject of their distrust of mixed race, biracial, or light-skinned black women. And it felt very, othering. It felt, very othering, as if like we're not black. And I would feel some type of way, and I would associate with some other mixed women that felt, some type of way about it. And I felt a little othered, and I was like, that's not fair. Like, we're not all fucking like that. Like, you can't just say that just because, like, maybe you've had a few run-ins. But then I shut my mouth and I didn't fucking talk about it because something in me told me there's a lesson here. There's a fucking lesson here. Because like it or not, when you are a mixed race person or a light-skinned person, and I'm speaking about mostly black women because that is what I am. That is who I am. Like, that is who I represent the most. And I was like, it's just like when we, just as black people in general, create a space like on YouTube or whatever to talk about black issues or whatever, and we talk about white people and the things that white people do, and then a white person, not just one, but a multitude of them will come into and be like, I'm white and I don't do that, or come on, not all white people, come on, not all blah, blah, blah. It's kind of the same thing. And why do I say it's kind of the same thing? Because whether we like it or not, mixed race, biracial, light-skinned black women, we are black, but we hold a position of privilege in the black community because of our proximity to whiteness, or even if we're mixed with something that's not white, not European, just proximity to anything other than black, because anti-blackness runs so deep in literally just about every single fucking culture on earth, that we do have a privilege. It goes way back, and granted, it starts with white supremacy, and it goes all the way back to plantation, plantation psychology and slave masters raping slaves to produce these mixed race babies, to honestly create division within the slave community by treating these light-skinned kids better, by treating these biracial kids better. But the thing is that just like some white people feed into the lie of whiteness, a lot of mixed people and light-skinned women feed into the lie of being better because of their proximity to whiteness. It happens. It really fucking does. And so when unambiguous black women talk about mixed race women as a generality, if I have like the urge right off the bat to say like, well, not all mixed women, whatever, it has nothing to do with the matter at hand, okay? That's a personal thing. Like, maybe I had to search and be like, okay, Nikki, maybe you feel a little uncomfortable inside because maybe you feel a little, I don't know, maybe guilty about the privilege. Maybe you feel, you feel this need to make yourself feel better when it has nothing to do with the matter at hand. It has nothing to do with the matter at hand, which is systemic problems with the Black community, which is why it's completely okay when we generalize, when we're like, white people, this, that, and then white people are like, not all white people. Like, we fucking know that. But you should know, if you're not one of those white people, then just shut the fuck up and chill out. It's the same fucking thing. It's the same fucking thing. You know? And for some reason, one of the things that I think opened my eyes a little bit more is, like, I started a rewatch of America's Next Top Model. Most toxic shit. I never watched it when I was young. I never watched it. And the colorism, not just from Tyra, but just like girls within the competition, the way that they would shamelessly put down the unambiguously dark-skinned Black girls, and the way that they would obviously favor the lighter-skinned ones, and seeing the lighter-skinned ones play into that. There's got to be a part 2 to this video too, because there are so many nuances to this relationship. But after seeing shit like that, and just other things that you read in the news and tabloids and stuff, I'm like, you know what? I fucking get it. I fucking get it. And I'm not mad about it. I'm not mad about it anymore at all. I'm like, I completely get why you don't trust people that look like me. And you know what? That's fucking okay, because with historical context, I do not blame you for feeling some type of way, or maybe feeling like you can't trust me right off the bat because of how I look, because we feel the same fucking way about white people, and I maintain that that's completely okay. That is completely okay to be skeptical of a white person until you are sure that they are all right. And now there is a lot of bullying that goes on in the Black community against mixed race people that is not okay. Like, literally just coming at just for existing, you know. But I think that some of the frustration, and correct me if I'm wrong, tell me in the comments. I noticed that I think a lot of the frustration comes because when we are discussing Black issues as a whole, some mixed kids like to try and center their individual mixed race experiences in the discussion where it doesn't belong. Being completely tone deaf to the fact, especially if you look like me, that you hold a fucking privilege, especially in like the entertainment, beauty, and all this, you know, specific industries. I'm like, and if you're at a certain age, I'm like, you know, bitch, like, you know that regardless of how much you were bullied for, you know, not being one or the other, which, like I said, all that pain is very valid, but it has nothing to do with the larger systemic problem that dark-skinned Black women, trans dark-skinned Black women are at the very bottom of the privilege ladder, and they have it the worst. They're the ones being told by the industry and by other fucking Black men in our own community that they are not desired, and that they're not beautiful, and that they're not feminine. And let's be honest, Black women that look like me are way more likely to be feminized, are more likely to be listened to. We're more likely to be considered delicate because of our proximity to whiteness. Even though we're Black, we hold a space of privilege in that space. And sometimes you need to shut the fuck up. Sometimes you need to shut the fuck up. I'm not saying that there doesn't need to be a space to talk about this shit, because it is problematic. It is problematic, like this dynamic of telling people like me, no, you're not Black. Now, granted, maybe it's because I have the privilege of having a platform, and I've gone through all that. I've gone through so many weirdos and hoteps telling me that I'm not Black, whatever. And it just happened so much over the past 2 or 3 years that I'm like, okay, it's a joke now. And I've met so many of my fans that are Black, you know, at like cons and stuff. Most of them are Black women of all colors, from all ages, from yay high to grandma. Like, I've met them all. I don't feel a need to prove my Blackness to anyone. It's okay. Like, I really don't care. But I think that the frustration comes that when we're talking about Black issues, a lot of mixed race kids or mixed women like to bring in the but I was bullied by Black kids too. You know, like, yeah, I was bullied by white kids, but I was more bullied by Black kids too. Not saying that those experiences should have happened, but it's like, again, the way white people do it in discussions about Blackness is like, you're obviously trying to detract away from the matter at hand and focus empathy on you, because instead of putting that energy towards where it should be going based on what this conversation is, maybe because of some internal guilt that you have, you feel the need to direct that energy towards yourself selfishly instead. And that is not what you should be doing. Your feelings are valid, but they don't belong in every single fucking space. That's what white woman tears do. Detracting attention away from this serious matter at hand to focus it on them. And I think a lot of mixed race people do that. A lot do that. I may have done it, honestly, maybe in the comfort of my living room, more so than like online. But now that I've done some thinking, I'm like, nah, that's where I feel like that's where the frustration comes from. And the joke, I love the joke that like the same fucking slam poem about being mixed and having to jump from one world to the other, it has been overdone so many times over the past 15 years that it's literally become a joke. It has become a joke. Like, you know, it was cool maybe like 10, 15 years ago, but now it's played out, you know what I mean? Like fucking like even like the natural hair movement. Most of the women that are the face of the natural hair movement are people like me. 3C. This is the new standard for what cute curly is, okay? This is cute now. This is trendy. But very rarely do you see type 4 women. That's a problem. And I say mixed girl tears because it's very interesting. Like, it's something that I noticed in some mixed race women associates that I would be around sometimes. I noticed this weird fragility, this just like, I don't know, this whininess, this what, and I couldn't put my finger on what it was until I separated a little bit from that, and I was like, it's white woman tears. It's white woman tears. And a lot of mixed race women, I think, can very easily adopt the habit of white woman tears, especially those I've noticed who grew up with white mothers. Because if you're a woman and your main example of femininity and womanhood is a white woman, of course it's very likely that you're going to pick up white women tactics. Just like similarly that, like, you know, maybe someone with a black mother might pick up, you know, the techniques that black women use to get through the world and survive. Albeit them some of them a little toxic, but it's kind of a product of, you know, what our culture is like, and that's a whole nother video. But I'm like, of course, if that's your main model of womanhood, you are likely to pick up white woman tears and apply it to situations in which things aren't going your way, and apply it to situations in which you feel like you're being singled out, or maybe you feel uncomfortable with that privilege. And very often, no, they're usually, and they're sometimes the thing is, like, a lot of these things, they happen in situations in which no one is trying to say that you're not black, you know? Something to think about, I think. I don't have a white mother. But I definitely have a somewhat non-black mother that my black father married because of his disdain for black women. Um, he wanted a more submissive woman. Gross. But I think it's something worth us as mixed race women thinking about. Definitely. And like, because of our proximity to whiteness, unfortunately, there are habits that we can pick up, harmful habits we can pick up that are very akin to problematic white behaviors, and we need to watch out for that. Absolutely. Does there need to be a space to talk about how people need to stop telling us that we're not black? Absolutely. But we also need to be cognizant of when we're trying to center our mixed race experiences, which ultimately, I'm sorry, are privileged, when we're talking about the bigger black experience. We need to be careful of that. We do. Uncomfortable as it may be. Now, if someone is coming for me individually, Nikki, they're like, you're a mixed race woman, so because of you're a fucking blah, blah, then okay, then I'll throw hands and be like, okay, hold on, wait a minute, partner, let's go, let's box. Like, that's completely different. That's completely different. But if you're in a space of black women, and a discussion is being had about the mistrust of mixed race women and light-skinned women, let me tell you, first of all, it's completely fucking justified. Historically and present culturally, it's completely justified. And maybe that might be a situation in which you need to just not center your experience, and you just need to listen. You just need to listen. And don't you dare use those fucking tears to put the attention on you, because it's not about you right now. It's not taking away your blackness, but you have to recognize that there are privileges that you hold because of your heritage. It's not your fault, but it is the way that it is. And we expect white people to do that. We expect people outside of our community to do that. I feel like we need to realize that we need to do that too. Okay? Don't use them tears. Don't do that. Don't do that. It's disrespectful. It's manipulative. It's the same mechanism as white woman tears. Something to think about. Something to think about. Something to think about. I will do another video on this because there was so much nuance to this that I want to discuss.